Hello, hello, hello. Happy Saturday. Welcome to the next edition of Saturday Chat Live here on February 11th, 2023, depending on where you are in the world, of course. But it is nice, sunny, cold, but sunny, beautiful day here in the state of Ohio in the U.S. I am so glad that you have come to the live stream, and we'll get going sort of here in a second. I want to make sure everything is set up. I do have a new microphone set up, so if it doesn't sound right, be sure to let me know, because you're the only people that will know if it's not. Everything seems to be working for me. All right, let me pull up my comments here. Whoops, wrong one. All right, so if you're new to the live stream, first thing I like to say is obviously namaste and good morning or good day wherever you are. Please put in the chat where you're watching from. I always like knowing where everyone is in the world. Let's try to make the world a smaller place and just kind of see where everyone is at. Again, if you're new to the stream, I just kind of take questions. It can be related to statistics, doesn't have to be necessarily. I can't always answer every question off the top of my head, so if I cannot, I don't have all this information right here, I can always get back to you on LinkedIn. Is usually the best place to reach me if I have time. I do the best I can with the time I have, as we all do. So first thing I want to say is, my heart goes out to everyone in Turkey and Syria right now dealing with the aftermath of the terrible earthquakes, because there wasn't just one. It's such a, horrible, tragic story. So, if you can, if you have the ability, find a relief organization, help them out with a few dollars to help individuals over there recover from that devastating earthquake. It's just awful. So, and I would say everyone in Ukraine who's watching from Ukraine or knows people who are in Ukraine, my heart is with you as well. So a lot of things going on in the world, unfortunately, that are not the best, but we just do the best we can and support everyone we can when we can. All right, so what's going on the channel? So if you haven't sort of seen, I've released several time series videos over the past several weeks. I'm on the second playlist of that time series, series of time series videos. A lot of time series words in there. And then I'll be starting a third playlist here in a couple weeks. That will take a little bit of time to get started because, believe it or not, the reason is that the data I'm using for that next playlist is actually my own personal data that I've been collecting for the past 11 months. And I need the end of February to get a full year of that data. So we're actually going to use real, data that I've collected. It's actually a data set that is the daily energy usage in my home, and then some other variables like the weather, if I was home or not, and the day of the week it was, and stuff like that. So we'll use some sort of real world data, but it's going to take till the end of February to get a full year's worth of data. So I kind of have to wait on that to happen. All right, so more content is coming. I want to get into some more R stuff, at least some basic R stuff, and that'll be part of the process. So I'm looking forward to it. Full speed ahead as time permits. All right, who we got here? Needy, hello. Thank you for stopping by the chat. Thank you. Roman, good to see you. The UA Heart, you are very welcome. You're very welcome. Hi to everybody. Audio is fine. Excellent, thank you. I do know what I'm doing somewhat some of the time. Yes, Roman from Ukraine, good to see you. Good to see you. And Abigail, I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly, from the Philippines. Excellent. Wonderful to see you all here on the Saturday. So I know there's a lot of stuff going on in the world, and I want to wish you and everybody my thoughts and my love and my support in your learning, and not only that, but everything else you're doing. So I'm just a weird, pretty cool dude here in Ohio, and I do what I can. So let's all just help each other out. So like I said, over the next several weeks, several months, I'll be releasing some new videos on the time series playlist. I might go back and do a couple of statistics videos as well during that time period. Some of you have asked about topics in the live stream. for me to make videos on, and I've kept a record of those. So I might sneak in a statistics video here and there, in addition to the time series videos that I already had, planned into the future. So that's sort of the cadence of the video releases over the next, several months. It'll start to warm up, here, and I won't feel trapped in the house. I can get out and do some stuff and, be a bit more productive in the stuff I'm doing. So that is what is happening, on the channel. We're just, trudging forward on the channel. Me on the channel. One thing I will say about YouTube right now, and everyone should just understand, I know this is in February of 2023. YouTube is a very, very difficult place right now to publish content and make it worth your time. So to put it into context, to tell you really what's sort of going on in the YouTube space right now. So last year of 2022, my YouTube earnings were about half of what they were the year before. Half. And that's releasing many, many videos last year, on a regular basis. I've had some of my worst months on YouTube the past couple of months. So it's hard. It is hard to justify too much time doing YouTube right now because it's such a really bad place as far as making the time worth, the return, I guess, in terms of just what your time is worth. I'm not saying it's not worth making content for you all. That's why I do it, but like everybody, I have a house and bills to pay and stuff like that. So I have to focus my time on what sort of pays the bills literally and figuratively. So it's a really tough time to be on YouTube right now and try to make any sort of, side hustle out of it or whatever. But I'll do the best, the best I can. It's just really, really hard. Like I said in the last live stream, if you ever want to know what's happening in the US or global economy, what's going to happen in the future, just ask a monetized YouTuber because they're going to tell you. They can see, how much companies are spending on their ad campaigns, and as that, it's a canary in the coal mine. When those companies decrease their ad spending on YouTube and any other platform, that's a leading indicator of how they think the future is going to be. So it's challenging on YouTube right now and other platforms that rely on advertising because of the economic situation here in the U.S. and of course around the world. So, but I will keep making videos. May not be as many, but I keep making them for you all, of course. All right. So what comments, questions, or thoughts do you have? Please put those in the chat while I grab some water. All right. Yes, I pronounced it correctly. My body clock is on U.S. Eastern time. I'm working U.S. time here in the Philippines for 12 years. Excellent. That is pretty cool. I hope to make it over to that part of the world at some point. Like I always say on these live streams, I would love to get over, maybe not the Philippines. I'm not sure where, but somewhere over there. It'd be really cool to experience. On that note, I will be going out to the U.S. West in June, at least as of now, unless something happens. So if you're out in Southern Washington, Northern Oregon area, or anyone let me know. I would be happy to grab a cup of coffee or a beer or something with you, if that's your thing. If you're out in that area, I know a lot of people do work out west, so just let me know. My goal is to climb Mount St. Helens while I'm out there. So I have a connection to Mount St. Helens. It erupted when I was a kid, so it was a very big story back then when the eruption happened in 1980. And it's one of the few volcanoes you can climb. It's easy to climb because the top half of it is gone. So the top half of it blew off. So you can actually climb up to the rim of the volcano and see the new lava dome that's building inside of it. So that is my hope. That is my hope. All right, taking some notes here. Make sure I don't forget. One second. Let's see here. Looking through. Could you please explain partial least square? Do you mean partial least square regression? Or just a little bit about least squares? Or what exactly are you referring to? Go back to my website here. It's yeah, it's a bit similar to PCA. So that's to principal components. I admittedly have not used partial least squares regression in a lot of things, or really anything. So that's something I might have to get back to you on, Needy. So let me write that down. All right, give me 1 second. All right. Let me get back to you. If I don't get back to you in the live stream, just message me or something like that, and I can chime in. Yeah, so regression. Piper, what's up, buddy? Cheers, all. Good to see you. Good to see you. Thanks for stopping by. So yeah, if you ask about something I don't have a lot of experience with, you know, I can always get back to you if that's the case. If you really need me to chime in, of course, nowadays all this information is pretty easy to find. So let's see. Oh, this is what I was doing. Let me share this with everybody. This is what happens when you're doing all this by yourself. All right. So just so everyone knows, obviously, if you're here, you know about the channel. The best thing I can point out about the channel are the playlists that I've created. So if you have not seen those, that's where you can find all the information about a specific topic that you can watch all the way through. You know, YouTube does not do a good job of organizing playlists for creators, unfortunately. So you kind of have to dig for them sometimes. This is where you can find them. Also, I do have a little website here where you can find information, you know, regarding supporting materials for the playlists. So if I go to, it's just bcfoltz.com. I can put it in the chat. But if I go to Stats 101, you will see all the playlists here, what is in each playlist, how many videos are in the playlist, the average length of each video, and the full playlist running time. So if you're looking to study a specific topic and you want to know how much time commitment it might be to watch all the way through, this is where you can find all that information. Okay, my website isn't full of ads and crap and stuff like that. You can just find the information you need, click on it, read it, and that's done. So that's all here. When you hover over, you'll see all the information that you might want to find, okay? So make it easy for you. Also, if you are looking for specific data sets that I use in the download section, so many of my videos have data sets you can follow along with, or spreadsheets or whatever, you can also find that here as well. I do need to add one or two that I've used recently to this, but this is all the ones primarily that you already have experience with in videos, okay? You can find those here. If you're interested and you want to support the channel, I do have PDF companions for certain playlists. So 4 of my playlists are by far the most watched. So what I did is make PDF companions for those playlists. And what they are is it has the slides in there, because a lot of people ask me for slides. So at the top left, you'll see a link to the video that is, you know, being represented here. You will see the slide. You will see a timestamp. That's where in the playlist, that's where in the video this happens. This link will take you to that place in the video, and then you have the transcript of the video. They're all here. So for regression, multiple regression, hypothesis testing, and what's the fourth one? Analysis of variance, ANOVA. They're only $20 US. and many of them are 350 to 400 pages long. So if you're looking for something to study with and support the channel, this is a good thing you can check out if it suits your needs. Okay. Also, if you go to contact me and live stream question form, this is just a little web form that you can fill out and send me ahead of time. And if I have the time, I go through and look for, live stream question in my email, and I can do a little bit of pre-research ahead of time. So Needy, you asked about partial least squares. A good thing to have done, you may not have known, that's why I'm doing this, is to email that to me ahead of time, and then I can, look up a few little things and maybe have some explanations, and then I can do that in the live stream. So this is a good place to ask me a question ahead of time, so I'm not trying to pull things out of my head, because it's really hard to do that kind of stuff. All right. So also on my YouTube homepage, here in the upper right, you'll find a link to the website, my LinkedIn profile, and then there's a PayPal, a tip button. So if you are so inclined to want to help the channel, help me get a cup of coffee so I can go do some work for you all, you can do a little donation there. $5 or $10 goes a long way for me, because it keeps me in the coffee shop working for 3-4 hours. You can do that there. All right. Okay, good. We have some questions popping in, which I will get to in a second. I want to get these house cleaning things out of the way first, and then I'll get to the questions that you have put in the chat. All right. Yeah. So let me go back to just me. All right. Questions and comments. All right. Yeah, so no problem. I'm actually not able to understand clear distinction between principal components and PLS. Okay. So yeah, this is one of those questions I might have to just get back to you on and do a few things offline. All right. So, all right. Kamala Kanan asks, where do you work, and what's your job domain and scope? How did you get pulled into statistics? Great question. I'm going to get a drink of water as well. So I have 3 jobs. I have a full-time job and 2 side gig or part-time jobs. So my full-time job currently, as I work for a company called Cengage Group, used to be called Cengage Learning, but it's Cengage Group because it's a growing sort of conglomerate of companies. Half the business is U.S. higher education. So we do, online courseware, we publish textbooks, all that kind of stuff for college students primarily in the U.S. higher education system. So my job is what's called a learning designer. So my daily job, my 9-to-5 job, is to work in concert with our product team that develops products, so textbooks, online courseware, stuff like that, in the areas of decision sciences and finance. So in decision sciences, that's business statistics, business analytics, management science, operations and supply chain. What else? Project management, stuff like that. That's decision sciences. Then finance is introduction to finance, introduction to finance, managerial finance, introduction to investments, personal finance, stuff like that. All right. So that's my 9-to-5 job. So I work very, very closely with our product manager to develop those products, talk to customers, product strategy. I do some video work for our pod, which is not surprising, and all kinds of other stuff. I kind of do a lot of different things. That's my 9-to-5 job. And then YouTube is a side gig. So I spend probably 20, 25 hours a month or so doing YouTube work. That includes doing the research for videos, developing the content for them, putting them into the PowerPoints, developing and finding the data sets for them, doing all the analysis, recording the videos, editing the videos, publishing the videos, all the stuff on YouTube. So I do about, 20, 25 hours at least of work a month in addition to my 9 to 5 job on YouTube work. And then my third job, my other side gig, is that I do independent contractor work for my previous employer who hired me back to do part-time voiceover work for training courses. That's kind of what my previous employer does. They develop training and compliance courses for primarily K-12 education here in the U.S. So they have people there that create the courses, and then I do the narration or the voiceover for those courses. So I do that. Depends on the month. That can be between 5 and 12 hours a month of that. So those are my three jobs currently. And then I also maintain a house and have to do all this stuff, just life. So that's why I stay pretty busy. And yeah. So thank you for asking. The question was, how did you get pulled into statistics? Well, this is I'll try to make this story short because there's a long version and a short version, so I'll try to keep it to the short version. So obviously, when I was in grade school, I took all the way up to AP Calculus. My senior year of high school, took AP Calculus. Then I got to college and had to take a linear algebra course, which to me looked like another language because I had not learned or seen anything like linear algebra in high school. It was actually very tough. I knew what an equation was, but I never worked with matrices, very little system of equations work, very little probability type work. So I was really had a hard time that first semester of undergraduate. Then I took a stats class as well, and I hadn't had any stats in high school, because high school, 8th grade was Algebra 1, freshman Algebra 2, sophomore geometry, junior pre-calculus, senior AP calculus. There was no statistics in there. There was no linear algebra in there. Then I had to go to college and take it. So the first stats class I took, I actually it was sort of a struggle too, because this stuff was not intuitive to anyone who'd never really seen it or experienced it. So what happened over time is I took more classes. My undergraduate degree is actually in math and science education. And then as I got into, and I always was asked to tutor people. So friends I went to high school with, like the siblings of friends I went to high school with, so people that were my age had siblings that were younger, and because they knew me and everyone's parents know everybody, they would hire me to tutor their kids in math or science. So I actually started kind of doing it that way. And then as I got into graduate school and stuff like that, especially when I got to Indiana University, so IU Bloomington in the state of Indiana, I found out there was this need for tutors for primarily the finite math class, which was M118. There was an A118 as well, but M118, and stats as well. The reason being, the business school at Indiana University is well known in the world and in the United States, of course. So it's called Kelley Business School. But prerequisites to get into the business school included these math classes. So there was this need among so many students to have help in tutoring in these subjects. So what I did is, just started out very slowly. One student here, other student there, and by the end, at its full scope, I was tutoring so many students at IU Bloomington in finite math and statistics, and maybe I did a pre-cal somewhere in there, a multivariate stats tutoring I did. Me and the student were both grad students, and basically what she really hired me to do was some of the concepts I'd never seen before either. But what she hired me to do primarily was to learn what she needed to learn and then take it apart in my brain and then sort of teach it back to her in a way she could understand. So that's kind of how it worked. So that was a multivariate stats class. But at the peak of doing all that tutoring in statistics and finite math, I was making more income from tutoring than I was from my graduate student stipend. That's how many students I was tutoring. I was in the main library constantly tutoring students. So that kind of started that. Really, the fundamental thing about this question, I got pulled into statistics because of two reasons. Well, three. One, I have a natural inclination towards math and science. I always have since I was a little kid. Math and science is like my thing. Two, I love to learn and teach things. And three, there was a need. So I put all those three things together, and that's what evolved into what some of you see now. And then I've told the story before. The reason the YouTube channel exists is because during the Great Recession, back in, 09, 10, 11, that sort of area, I was working on my doctorate, but then the economy collapsed and there was like no funding, there was no money, there was no nothing. And I kind of had to give up on that, which was actually a blessing in disguise, which I can talk more about if you really want to. But what happened is, I had a bachelor's degree, a master's degree, and almost a doctorate, and then a Great Recession, and there were no jobs. I applied for 180 jobs during that time. And nothing was biting because everyone was looking for jobs. I remember one institution I applied to, I found out they had 17,000 applications. 17,000 applicants at that time. So the YouTube channel came at a low point when I had nothing else going on, living back with my parents in my mid-30s. I said, you know what? I have a YouTube channel. I can make a YouTube channel. It's free. I have a computer. I have a place to work. I have supportive family. I know my skills and abilities. I never doubted myself, and that's when I started the YouTube channel 10 years ago. And here we are, 276,000 subscribers later. So one point of that story is, this is a great question, I think, for everyone to sort of understand about how I even got to where I am at. I will point out that during the recession, I started a YouTube channel, and then it grew for a little while, and then a recruiter saw it. A recruiter saw the YouTube channel growing and got me into an interview for my previous employer, and that helped me land that first full-time job out of the Great Recession. And then, after about 9 months, another recruiter saw the YouTube channel because it was growing really fast by that point. And then that got me an interview, or helped me get an interview for my current position at Cengage Group. So it's weird how life works like that. But the decision to just sit down and make the first YouTube video 10 years ago completely changed the course of my life. That one decision has opened up everything else that has come since. So my advice to everyone out there is, when you do have those sorts of low points in life, largely because of things you cannot control. The Great Recession was not in anybody's personal control. Well, there are some people who helped really cause it, but I'm talking about your effect, right? Is know what you're good at, have confidence in what you're good at, and find a way. You know, it's like running water. Running water finds a way, and you just find a way based off your gravity. And here I am, 10 years later. So it's a very, how did I get pulled into statistics? It's a very circuitous way that this all happened. It's really a bizarre sort of story, but life sometimes happens that way, I think it's just being self-aware, knowing what your strengths are, having faith and confidence and belief, in yourself. But I also have the fortune of being in a very supportive family who loves me and cares about me and never doubted me and supported me during that really tough time. And those are things that you just can't put a price tag on or really even understand sometimes, So that's how I got pulled into all this. And now it's just taken on a life of its own. And for me, as I always say, the reason I do any of this stuff is to help people. So I take whatever I've been given. I'm fortunate enough to be born at a certain time in a stable country, to loving and supportive parents, a great brother, extended family. I've had access to great education growing up, So those are all things that have been fortunate that I've been provided. And I've tried to make the most of that and then give back whenever I can. Plus, I thoroughly enjoy it. I thoroughly enjoy tackling a topic, learning about it, breaking it apart in my head, and then trying to put it back together in a way that I can put out into the world to you all that helps you all learn it better. It's a true joy. And whatever you think you've gotten out of it, I've gotten 10 times more out of it. So here we are. All right. Okay. I could talk more about that stuff forever, but I just think it's a story about knowing what you're good at, having faith in yourself, and then finding a way to take advantage of those things that you can do, doing work that's meaningful, and getting up each day and doing it. All right. I'm happy to follow up on anything I said. So if you have any follow-up questions about all that, I am more than happy to oblige. All right, but I do want to get some other questions here, but we can come back to that if you want. All right. Sobham asks, what is the best or your preferred software for data visualization? So for me, as a pragmatist, the best one is the one you have available and the one that meets your needs. That's it. So sometimes it's a pad of paper and a pen. Sometimes it is just basic Excel. Sometimes it might be ggplot2. Sometimes it might be Power BI. Sometimes it might be a website that can do the data vises for you. So I'm not trying to cop out of the question. For me, I don't get focused on any of the tools. I just pick the tool that's available and gets me what I need. So what I would say is use whatever you have available. But if your question really is Tableau or Power BI, I'm a Power BI person. So, and there are reasons for that. But as of now, I'm more of a Power BI person, and I can elaborate on that if you would like. So put that in the chat if you want me to talk more about that. All right. Piper asks, thanks for the time series text, Forecasting Principles and Practice. Great book. Let me see if I can find that real quick. I'll put it in the chat. Yeah, it's an excellent book, online book, free online book. So here it is. So this is the book that Piper Tripp is referring to. Well, actually, what I can do is pull it up. I have my screen share on. So what we're referring to here, for those of you who are interested, there's a print version too, but this is the sort of the online open version. So Rob Heinemann is one of the premier people working in sort of time series forecasting. And what this is obviously it's sort of a book, but it also has all the code in it. So, if you want to get into more, and it's R, some more of the R stuff, this book is there, and I use it. I use it for my own education. I use it for the examples that I do in some of the videos, or will be doing on some of the videos. So this is that book. So it's just FPP3, Forecasting Principles and Practice, 3rd edition. And you can download all the stuff. It gets into some more advanced topics as well. So that's the book Piper Tripp is referring to. It's excellent. And you can find Professor Heinemann and his colleagues, on YouTube and stuff like that. So seems like a really nice guy as well. All right. So this is the 3rd version, by the way. There is a second one that's floating around. The 3rd version is this reddish version. So make sure you use the most up-to-date version, because some of the code changed and some of the packages changed from the 2nd to the 3rd. So make sure you do use this 3rd edition if you're going to use this book to learn. So for this book, I've gone through this book all the way through, every chapter, every exercise, all the code twice. I've gone through the whole thing twice. And I've come across very few issues with the code or anything like that. They seem to keep it up to date. So I'm going to go through it a 3rd time. So I highly recommend this if you're looking to get into more time series forecasting, and it does use R. So just be aware that it is R, which shouldn't be a problem for most of you. All right. Where am I at? So Piper asked, what are some of the topics covered in the basic finite math course? So there are different flavors of finite math. So what I can tell you is the one that I tutored in, okay? And actually, here. So I pulled this up before. So this binder here, has all of my finite math stuff in it from 20 years ago. Whoa. So this is all of it. So if you're asking yourself, gee, Brandon, that might be a good topic for YouTube. Well, you're exactly right. So at some point I will get to it, but right now I'm doing time series, but I might get to finite math. So what are some of the topics in this course? So primarily in this finite math course that I did a lot of tutoring in, the first chunk of it was a lot about probability. So combinations, permutations, Venn diagrams, questions like, if a license plate in the US has these, 6 places, and the second one is the letter M, and the 5th one is the letter D or S, how many license plates are there? Stuff like that. So lots of Venn diagrams. What else would I say in the first part? That's a good summation of the first part. A lot of probability and stuff like that. The second part of 3 parts was linear programming. So systems of linear equations, objective functions, stuff like that, graphing, linear programming problems, finding graphically the optimal solution or optimal solutions for a linear programming problem, stuff along like those lines was the second component. of the finite math course that I tutored. And then the last component was matrix algebra. So a lot of matrices, matrix operations, which then transitioned into ultimately Markov chains, Markov operations. Because you got to have obviously matrix math to do that kind of stuff. So probability, systems of linear equations, linear programming, and then matrix algebra and Markov chains. Those were sort of the main sort of chunks that this course at least was based around. All right. Let's see. Good drink of water. Hi, Brandon. Good evening. I'm new to data science from past 12 years. Non-IT side, non-coding. U.S. health insurance background. Okay. I'd like to switch my career into data science. Help me with the road map. Well, KK, it would really, I'm not trying to get out of the question, but it really depends on some other things, like what other sort of training and classes you've had, what have your experiences sort of gone into, what sort of education do you want to go into to level up your skills in data science? Do you want to do like a degree program, like a 2-year program? Do you just want to do online learning like on YouTube or Udemy or Maven or many of the other Coursera's, Google certificate, whatever? What level of new education do you want to get into? That's one thing to ask yourself. Sometimes it helps working backward, where you start with whatever job you want to do. You start there and then work back to what you need to do to get there. And there are many routes. So one thing I recommend people doing is if they're looking for some sort of career change or some sort of advancement or whatever else, is to work backward. Talk to people in that field, talk to people in that position you want to do, and either just research or ask or whatever else, what sort of skill set do they have and how did they get there to do that sort of job, But in general, data science type careers, one, they're changing as we're finding out the past few months. But you're obviously, if you want to do, really data science type stuff, you'll have to get familiar with coding, whether that's R or Python. Some jobs use one or the other or have a preferred one or the other. That's one thing you can find out by asking around. So getting familiar with those languages at least a bit. I'm not a coder by nature or training or anything. It's just a tool to me. So find the one you want to go to and pick one, and then stay with that one for a while to learn it. Then you can maybe learn the other. It's those languages, to me, or at least once you learn one, learning the other one is easier. Kind of like spoken language in some instances. So start at the end point and work backwards on the best way to get there, and whatever topics. Obviously, basic statistics is important. Some basic coding is important. And then from there, you can branch off into a lot of different, you can branch off into a lot of different specializations or whatever else. It's hard to know exactly. But there are some fundamental things that are common to all these disciplines. So obviously, stats, some basic coding is good, maybe some SQL, stuff like that. Let's see. Let's imagine what type of job work position I can get if I figure out how to use all the stuff from 21 playlists about statistics. So, learning just all that is not alone. We'll just teach you about statistics, Roman, of course, but it's how it's applied. So business analysts use a lot of statistics. Some BI people within businesses use statistics. Any sort of data analysis type position, and I will say that data analysis type positions are prevalent in almost all industries nowadays, from obviously education to something like the New York Times or Washington Post. They have data analysts on their team that not only help with their own internal data, but also help reporters and website builders develop data visualizations and wrangle data for online versions of articles. So there are many applications, and of course, I live, a mile and a half from a ginormous, huge Procter & Gamble research center. You can see it from space. It's so big. So obviously companies that do a lot of research hire individuals with a lot of statistics background. Now, of course, they're going to hire people who have like master's level stats backgrounds, maybe even higher. But even just, a typical day job, knowing a lot about stats, aside from the content that I help develop, but just in general, knowing about, statistical ideas helps just in my everyday job. So it's just in what domain you will apply that. Just depends on how you want to flavor your version of learning the stats. So, get back to the previous conversation. Fortune favors the prepared. Sometimes it's. I've been very fortunate in my life. Piper, I think some of this is not even something you consciously even think about or decide. There's at least in me, I've over time, especially when I went through that very tough time during the recession, what I've learned about myself is that there is a part of me that I just have to trust. It's like there's this sort of thing that's out in front of me that's always sort of leading me the right way. If I just trust it, I'm gonna go the right way if I just sort of follow it and trust it. I'm not really a person that trusts things I can't see or verify, but I've learned that there is something there that I just need to learn to trust. And if I follow it, it'll take me where I need to go. Maybe not directly, but it will eventually get to where I need, to go. So, and here, I think in my case, fortune favored the person who said, "What the hell? What else do I got to lose?" So, all right, we're still back in that conversation. Interesting. Thanks for that. You are very, very welcome. You're very welcome. You want to talk to me personally on YouTube, source reaching out. I talk to people on LinkedIn when I have the time. So that's probably, a good place to message me if you have LinkedIn. I'm not on social media at all. I got rid of all my social media a couple years ago, 2-3 years ago. One of the best things I've ever done in my life. Got rid of it all. So I'm YouTube and LinkedIn only. How to start in statistics, steps way to study stats, where to start, how to break it up. Well, obviously my YouTube channel is the #1 place I would recommend. So the playlists on my YouTube channel about statistics are broken up almost identically to how you would cover them in a traditional stats book. So all the playlists are in order, and all the videos in the playlists are in order. So like I said before, if you go back here, I'll pull this up again. If you go here on my website on the Stats 101 page, they're all in order. So you would just go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, all the way down. And then when you click on the playlist, the videos in the playlist will be in order there. So it's all sequential to how you would learn it in a traditional stats class. Then I would always suggest picking up, a basic stats book. Finding a used textbook somewhere. I have my favorites, just having a good reference book, and then taking advantage of whatever other resources you have available. But there's a warning in that trying to do too many things at once can be overwhelming. So I would just pick, maybe a couple. And then if you're into the coding arena, you might want to learn some of this stuff through learning R or something, kind of doing both. So let's say you're learning about how to do a t-test, in traditional stats. Well, also ask yourself as part of your learning, okay, how do I do a t-test in Excel, but also how do I do a t-test in Google Sheets, and then how do I do a t-test in R? And then learn, as you're learning the concept, learn a couple of tools along with it. Okay. All right. Mom to ask, how can I be an expert in regression modeling? I do have some great regression books. Pardon me for a second. I'm back. So, if you really want to get into regression modeling, some high-end regression modeling, so this is a good book. This is Applied Regression Analysis and Other Multivariate Methods by Kleinbaum, a very well-known author in regression space. You can find this used. This is an older edition. That's a good book to look at if you like books. And then one of my favorites that I've used for a long time is Tabachnik's Multivariate Stats book. This was the book that I used with the graduate student I tutored, where I was learning the concept and then going back to her the week later to explain to her how I learned it. This was the book we used. So that's a good book. And then, like anything else, you have you also have this one, so the ISL book with applications in R. This is a good one to use as well, right here. And this is free. You can find it. So those are a couple suggestions, for learning more advanced regression modeling. It can get very complicated, so just going to be forewarned. But it's a good place to start. All right. So I think this is in reference to the forecasting book. Yeah. So this is the forecasting book that I've been. It's an online book. It's free right here with all the code in there. So check it out for sure. Very welcome. Yeah. So mark it on your favorites if you're looking to get into more forecasting with R. Now, I will say one thing about this book. It approaches it from a specific point of view and direction in learning forecasting. There's not a whole lot of going over like, the basic forecasting techniques at all. So you might want to supplement this book with with my videos, the self-plug, or another textbook on basic forecasting. Okay. Because if you've never done anything with time series forecasting at all, and you jump into this book, you're going to be like, what? So you might want to supplement it with my videos or something more introductory, because they'll be talking about things in here and you'll see all these equations and all this other stuff that can get overwhelming. This book does have a lot of math type equations in it, but it's really not all that necessary to get into the weeds of them. It's more about understanding the concepts and the narrative and the R code, right? Like I said, I've gone through the entire book twice. I'm getting ready to go through it a third time. So that's the way I learn, by the way. I learn by brute force. I just do a lot of it, sometimes repeatedly. Okay. Sent to ask, hello, sir. Can you share some tips for someone who has just started learning machine learning? First thing I would say is get a basic, grasp of stats. So statistics is, first and foremost. pick a programming language, R or Python. And then when you get to the basic stats material, really focus on linear regression, of course, and logistic regression. So that's really the first kind of entry, the bridge from traditional statistics to machine learning. Because linear regression is one of the machine learning models you can choose from, of many now. So if you have a continuous dependent variable regression, linear regression, if you have a binary dependent variable, logistic regression, that will usually be covered in a traditional stats book. That's a good place to start, is there. And then for anyone who's brand new to machine learning, I highly recommend this book by Oliver Theobald. It's the Machine Learning for Absolute Beginners. So if you're just starting with machine learning, maybe you have some stats and math and you've heard about this machine learning type thing or whatever else, and you just kind of want to get into what's the next level? This is it. It's a very short book, okay? But it covers what machine learning is. It covers the basics of some of the more popular algorithms in machine learning. It covers what ML can and cannot do. And there's a good job of making it accessible. So this is a great book for those who are just starting out with machine learning. Oliver's another one of these people who's also a super nice person. So I've talked to him on LinkedIn a few times. Great book to have. All right. Where are we at here? Ooh, let's look at the time. Look at the questions here. We're getting close to our time. Thanks. You are very welcome, Piper. Thanks a lot for explaining details. Of course, you are very welcome. Social media is rubbish. I wish it wasn't. But yeah, when I decided to delete it all, and here's what I'll say. I decided, was it beginning of 2020? To delete all my social media except for YouTube and LinkedIn. And I thought I would have, trouble, or it's like a withdrawal. Nope. Dropped it and never looked back. And my mental health, relationships and stuff like that have been so much better because of no social media. Just gone. So I think it's also easier for me because I'm old enough. I'm almost 50 years old. So I'm old enough to remember the world before it all. So it's easier for me because I didn't grow up with it. The internet really wasn't a thing until I was in college. So, and even then barely a thing. We're talking like late 90s, mid to late 90s. So it was easier for me I think, to delete all my social media because I grew up not ever having it. So, in having so much, deleting social media was good for my mental health. Very good for my mental health. It also was a huge time sink because they're designed to keep you on there. But I do worry. I do worry what things like TikTok and other social media are doing to us long term. But I'm glad it's a personal decision, so I'm not going to tell anyone else what to do. Everyone can make their own decisions on those things. But for me, it was a huge positive to get rid of all of it. Gone. I mean, YouTube and LinkedIn are sort of bad enough sometimes, especially LinkedIn nowadays. So, all right. What else we got here? Yeah, so Piper asks, KK, it's really important to do problem sets too. Absolutely. Read, watch, work some problems, iterate. You won't really get the ideas into your bones until you struggle with lots of problems and make mistakes. That's absolutely true. So talking about, I'm so old, I remember this. When I was in school, every day, like especially in math classes, was like, okay, your homework for tomorrow is problems 1 through 55 odd. Now go home and do them all. And the next day, now you're going to do 2 through 54 even. Do them all. That was what it was like. Just spiral notebooks full of problems worked just over and over and over and over. And doing it over and over and over develops, mental memory, muscle memory. When you do things repetitively like that, you learn patterns, you learn to see things. Shortcuts start happening in your mind. You get faster at it, you get more accurate at it. So sometimes it's just sitting down and just hammering out a bunch of examples and problems. That's why I've gone through this forecasting book twice. And I'm going to do it a third time because I'm trying to get the memory. I'm trying to get the patterns down by just doing it over and over and over because it sticks. It's like when you do it multiple times, instead of sticking a piece of tape to something, it's like sticking tape to tape. Does that make any sense at all? Probably not. Hopefully some of you know what I mean by that. All right. All right. Thank you so much. Really helpful. You're very, very welcome. Is it possible for you to make videos on survival analysis and stochastic processes? Is it possible? Yes. I've had some questions about survival before. Stochastic processes, maybe. Like I said at the beginning of the live stream, it's hard to find time to do all the videos I would want to do. Especially like during a month right now, I'm not making enough money on YouTube to even eat. Even though I have 276,000 subscribers. That's what it's like right now. So, I make videos when I can, and I try to get to each topic when I can. So, is it possible to make these videos? Yes. Will it happen maybe anytime soon? Probably not. Not because I wouldn't want to, just because there's not enough time, and I have to focus on this, that, or the other. All right. Thank you. You're very welcome. Rosie Kata says time saved. I think we're talking about social media there. Absolutely. Social media is a massive time sink. So gone. Not only is using it a time sink, but the amount of mental space it takes up, psychological and emotional bandwidth it takes up is also time sunk. So forget it. At least for me. Oh, let's see here. All right. Got your chat popped up on my phone this morning. I moved to my PC. Probably a better experience. The view is better. Absolutely. Absolutely. So you're not on TikTok, I take it? Absolutely not. I think I might have made a TikTok account at one time and then made 2 videos on there or something and then deleted it. So mainly to see what it was like. I'd never seen it. All right. Just follow me on LinkedIn. Excellent. Yeah, if you're on YouTube and you haven't connected or followed me on LinkedIn, please do. That's where I do all my interacting for the most part. So, let's see here. KK, is there any chance of moving to U.S. from India? Is I'm working for the past 12 years. The U.S. health insurance, what is the best resource to move to U.S. state and work there? Yeah, it's not a question I could answer. I'm not sure someone else can, even though I think you're talking to each other. But I think the easiest way is to have a work visa, but I could be wrong. Let's see, which is hard right now. Could you do more diagrammatic statistic explanation with real life examples and work related of stats videos? I'm going to go in a few minutes, but could you, if you're still here, Karen, could you elaborate on what you mean by diagrammatic statistics explanations. I'd be happy to think about that. On the real world, real-time examples, real-time. Not sure what that, I'm sure what you mean by that. Maybe you can elaborate for me. All right. Social media might be considered a sunk cost. Yeah, maybe, you know, sunk cost is, the cost of you can't really go do something over. It's already just, it's done. But it's too much. It's just too much for me. Maybe it's just me becoming an old fart. Maybe it's just, a different point in my life or growing up without social media and stuff. I've seen it destroy relationships I have with family and friends and stuff. And, it's just not worth it. It's just, especially in our political climate and stuff like, it's just bad. All right. So I'm going to go through the chat here and see if I missed anything substantive, because when I leave this live stream, guess where I'm going? I'm going up to the coffee shop to do some work. So, that's always what I do usually after these live streams, because I'm all showered and fancied up. I might as well just go out into the world. Okay. I think I got most everything. It's a little bit late now. Of course, I forgot to do this at the beginning. Maybe not this live stream, but if you come on subsequent live streams, any super chats and PayPal tips are welcome. That helps support the channel. I thought about starting a Patreon at one time, but I think starting a Patreon would not be fair, because then it'd create a customer relationship with my viewers, I think. And I don't want to take Patreon money and not be able to consistently make videos. So I did not do that. So if you have a few dollars here or there, like I said, a cup of coffee gets me like 3 or 4 hours of work done. So that's all it really takes. I appreciate it. And again, super chats are here on YouTube, and the PayPal tip is in my YouTube cover, on my cover image. Okay. You don't have to, but I appreciate the support, of course. All right. Thank you for your time and efforts. You are very, very welcome. I appreciate it. Thank you for your time. The most important thing any of us have is time. And if you come to one of my videos or this live stream, you're giving up very valuable time in your life to watch it. And I want to make sure that it's the best learning experience for you, and it's worth your time, because that's the most valuable thing. So thank you for your time. Thanks again. Always taking my head in, listening, seeing what interests other folks. Absolutely. Yeah, you can learn from other people. Just if you're, on the live stream, if you're just kind of doing other things while this is on, that's perfectly fine. Just kind of check in the chat now and then. I think Karen's asking about presenting numeric data through pictograms, cartograms, barograms, piograms, so data visualization. So is that just another way of asking for some data viz content? Yeah, so Patreon, you can charge by content release other than monthly. Yeah, I could do that. Who knows? Maybe at some point I might think about doing that. But I've always just hated. I'm not comfortable asking people to pay for things that I create, which I know is not a winning formula to make any sort of living. I tend to be pretty passive with that kind of stuff. So, yeah, we'll see. But yeah, you're right, Piper. I could do it by release. Okay. Let's see here. So yes, you're right. Thank you. So, so Kieran, if you're talking about more data viz, that's something I could do at some point. Absolutely. Let's see here. Hiking in the woods with my dog, listening to it. Absolutely. Say hi to your dog for me. Typing up latex stats notes. Excellent. Let's see here. Hey, 2934. Love your content. Thank you very much for stopping by. Absolutely. Going through the last little bit of comments here. Discouraging news for tech workers wanting to move from India to the U.S. right now. Absolutely, it is. Really anywhere. It's really just hard. Current job market is inhospitable for H-1B visa holders. Yep. Which I don't have time to go into all this stuff right now, but when the job market's so tight and inflation is like 7%, like, isn't that one you want to have a bit more flexibility in the labor market? Maybe? I don't know. That's one thing. Plus, there's a lot of really kick-ass, hardworking people in India and elsewhere that would love to come contribute, to your business or whatever else. It's just, I don't know. It's a whole other ball of wax, right? So I'm just glad to spend some time with you. All right, I think I got everything as far as comments go, I think. Yeah, so where are we at here? It is. So today's the 11th. The next live stream, barring anything weird happening, will be in 2 weeks on February 25th. So mark your calendars. Of course, I always put it up the week that the live stream goes live, so usually like the Tuesday or Wednesday of that week. Put a reminder, hit the bell, it'll remind you when it's going to pop up. I'm not sure if LinkedIn does that, but you can, I think if you say you're going to attend on LinkedIn, it'll give you a reminder, even if you don't end up making it. So, yeah. So I will see you all again in 2 weeks, towards the end of the month. But it's been such a great time. It's been great spending some time with all you beautiful, wonderful people out there. I thank you so much for everything you do for the channel and through that for me personally. So I wish you all the health and happiness for the next couple of weeks. All my thoughts go to everyone in Turkey and Syria and, of course, in Ukraine. And anyone else that needs a little lift up right now, I'm sending my energy to you all. So you are all excellent and wonderful. So that being said, be wonderful to each other. And I will see you again in 2 weeks. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.